Well, thank you so very much for coming today, Brooke. It's lovely to see you.
My pleasure.
And I'm absolutely excited to have this chat to you about the impact that you're having on the world and, where you're going. Very exciting. But just to kick it off, just to sort of get a little feel for things, is there something about you that people would be surprised to learn?
I left home at 17 and went down to Sydney for a week's work experience and stayed there for 3 years on the Sydney Futures Exchange. That was when there was a Futures Exchange with coloured jackets yelling in, you're 50 at 6 and all that stuff. So that was kind of my introduction to the world of work.
Ah,
Mm.
okay. And whereabouts in Sydney were you?
So the Sydney Future Exchange was in the middle of the city, and for my last year, I was doing the midnight desk, so working for CBA between midnight and 8, doing the US desk and living on Bondi Beach. So it was a very strange life,
Very
but it
good.
was a great life. And then my boyfriend at the time, who was also a trader on the Futures Exchange, had a bad loss one day, so went from hero to zero, and we spent 3 months traveling from Sydney to Brisbane and saved a whale and had a pet sparrow. So it was a very different kind of very different kind of existence for a little while.
Oh, cool. That's so good. But they're the things that make you, aren't they? They
Well,
seriously
yes,
are. They are.
yes.
Yeah. So if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would that
Mm.
be?
It would be to Askvoll in Norway. I have made a promise to my father that I will get there. My grandfather was shot down twice during World War II, once on Christmas Day outside Singapore. His mates flew around, got word to a Dutch sub and got him picked up. But the second time was near the end of the war, and he was shot down in a Norwegian fjord. So my family have been there. My father's been there, my brother, my sister, but I haven't been there yet. And I've promised my
Ah,
father I will. Parts of his plane were rescued, and this small town have made a real kind of tribute to him, and it's still going a little while later, since
wow.
1944. So that's one place I have to get to in the world.
Absolutely you do. Oh, that's gold. That is
Mm.
gold. So what's a hidden talent that you have or your favorite party trick?
Uh, well, it's not very hidden because any party. I'm a dancer. I
Okay.
am, I'm a good dancer, and it doesn't matter what type of dance that you say, I can do it. Moonwalk, like the best of them, an Irish jig, Thai.
You just
Dance
love
was
it.
my thing. And actually, my father, when I first went to the Futures Exchange, I said, Brooke, I thought you were going to be a ballet teacher or a ballet dancer. And then I've lived this life of finance, but I still love that as a self-expression. Yeah,
Oh, how
dancing.
cool. Okay, well,
Just don't ask me to sing. I
okay,
used to get
okay.
grounded if I sung in the shower. It's that bad, but dancing I can do.
Awesome.
Okay.
Doing some dancing. Oh, our Natasha would love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, so can you get the ball rolling here a little bit by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay. Wow. Light questions for the afternoon, aren't
Mm.
they? Who am I? I don't know how profound I take this. So, who I am is a 50-year-old mother and happy wife, and the first thing. So, two teenage kids, a great husband who has my back and has to often, given the work that I have. So, that's who I see myself as: a gardener, a daughter, a sister. And I think for everybody, that is your life, that's your personal life. But my work is extraordinary and I love it. Even when I don't, I love it. It's My role is Chair of Governance, Administration and Finance for the City of Gold Coast,
Mhm.
and Councillor for Division 6, which includes Southport, Benoa, Ashmore, Churn Park. Yeah, there's two hats to this role, and it is an utter privilege. I know that can be a cliche, but we are the largest independent government in the country. We're creating the vision and the future for this extraordinary city. We have incredible challenges, but there's 15 of us, motley crew, to create it and make it up and go along. And it is it's quite something to be able to use the decades of financial background that I have. I worked in Hong Kong for a decade. I've studied tax law at a postgraduate level. And to bring all those skills, I've had to use all of them to just go through every day of what we need to do for this city. So it is a
Awesome.
delight. It is an extraordinary role. And yeah, it is tough. It's
Yeah.
a tough role too. It's brutal sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't imagine doing anything else that I love more.
Oh, that's awesome. And some things, sometimes it's the brutal, that's where the gold is. Sometimes I've learnt those lessons in life that when things are tough, that's actually another growth for you. That's actually the molding. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. I always say to the staff, look for the lessons. What are the
Yes.
lessons? Something bad happens. Don't feel sorry for yourself. You go, hey, what's the lesson in this for me?
Yes,
So,
my poor kids get that. So when we go on holiday, I'm always looking for something that's kind of really pushing them out of the comfort zone. It's like, oh, didn't quite manage. I didn't mean it to be quite like this when we got stuck in canoes somewhere, but you got to push them a bit.
okay, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, what first sparked your desire to make an impact in the role that you're in now?
In public
In public
service,
service, yes.
as early as I remember, certainly from the age of 7 or 8, I was told about my family, and I was told about my great great uncle, who was the youngest ever High Court judge, leader of the Labor Party, head of the military and foreign affairs, dealing with the World War II, and then went on to be the first president of the United Nations. So it was kind of okay. That's and I think unlike a lot of people who don't have that kind of public service in their family, it was seen as an absolute privilege
Mm,
and the highest form of service to
mm,
be a public representative. And I don't think that is a common way that people necessarily think about elected representatives,
mm,
but that was kind of within how I was brought up.
mm.
My uncle, when I was in my teens, was Treasurer of Queensland. I had MPs on my father's side as well. So I just was exposed to this, that this is the most extraordinary way that you can contribute and make a difference. And I think from a very young age, I thought, wow, that is cool and that's something. But it took me till I got into my 40s for it to become a reality.
Yeah.
I'd come back from Hong Kong with a family. I was PNC president at my local primary school, my kids' school, and I kept hitting up the local councillor for school needs this and the footpaths need this. And one day he said, you should do my job. And I thought, I
Okay.
think I should. So, and looking at all the different levels of government and where you could express yourself, I think there is something special, particularly about Gold Coast Council, because you've got a
Awesome.
budget bigger than Tassie, you've got this incredible growth and opportunity, but we are independent.
Yep,
So a party
right.
doesn't tell me how to vote or make decisions, and you're really doing what you think is best and what you think reflects not only what your community wants, but what the future community wants. Because if you look at the Local Government Act and what our obligations are, it is to the city.
Mm,
It's not necessarily to your division. It isn't actually. You've got to vote with the whole city in mind, and not only the city of today. You
mm.
have to what makes sense for the city for future generations.
Sure.
So the way I like it, if I've got difficult decisions to make or vote on, and my fellow councillors give me a bit of cheek, they're saying, Brooke takes open and persuadable to a whole level. It's like, oh yeah, that's a really good point. Oh no, that's a really good point. But I get there in the end is I think about, well, what would my grandparents think about this?
Mm,
Who and what would my future grandchildren think of this? So I kind
mm,
of like try and take that lens
mm.
when things get a bit tricky.
That's gold. That's actually very, um, that's having huge integrity, I think, because a lot of people only look at the now. And I think to learn from the past and to have the wisdom of those that went before you and put that in and then mold that into the future. Oh, that's gold. Well done. I love it. Okay, so can you share a defining moment in your journey, something that shaped your mission and values?
Oh gosh. Well, there's something that comes up, and you just use the word integrity.
Mm,
For me, I'm clear. Integrity is my superpower. That's how I relate to it. If I have myself in order, my integrity in order, then everything works. Even when things are difficult, things work.
Yes.
So I think I actually, when was it? I think I was in my 30s, and I had an opportunity to go and study integrity as a distinction. And I flew to Tokyo from Hong Kong, and I had weekend-long conversations, like a Socratic conversation, about what is integrity, right? Like, what is it? And then being able to get that to a really deep level. So looking at, well, first of all, it's doing what you said you do when you said you're going to do it. But if you're playing a big game in life and you're up for big stuff, you're not always going to be able to do what you said you're going to do.
Yeah.
So the other part of that is restoring it. And, okay, I said I'm going to do that, but, okay, yeah, this is what happened, and you clean it up. But the other part, and this is the part I'm really working on teaching my teenage boy about, is integrity is only there if you also have an empowering context.
Okay.
So, like, if I go, okay, yeah, I'm going to be there at 9, I'm here at 9, I don't want to be here. If you have a disempowering context, you don't have integrity. So you have a duty and a responsibility to show up, but not only just go through the motions of, oh, well, I did what I said I'd do, but you do it with a empowering context for you and others. So that shaped my values probably more clearly and more fundamentally than anything. Yeah.
Wow. And that was in Japan.
It was in Japan. Yeah,
Okay.
it was leaders from other countries, but people flew everywhere and to go and just have a really, in-depth Socratic in nature conversation about what does integrity mean.
Yeah.
And the Japanese, and there was a translator, integrati. So it was just like, it's there in my face.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good. Oh, what a wonderful thing to take into the future. You're lucky boys. That's awesome. Okay, so on the flip side, what's a failure or a setback you've experienced, and how did that shape your path?
The setback, the most cruel and wretched moment of my life was when things got misunderstood around Anzac Day.
Oh.
So I was responsible for managing Anzac Day. We'd had issues. The city had issues with the kind of compliance of the expenses and everything for the last few years. And I was working with the guys. I said, well, what about if we did the one main walk-in at like 8 o'clock rather than dawn, so that you got more school kids are coming and watch, and then their grandparents and their parents come to watch, and we see more. Anyway, it was just a total and utter misunderstanding and misalignment. And the media made it into this massive, massive thing. And they turned it to Brooke was against the Anzacs. And given there isn't a more sacred day in my family's life, in my family, because those who went before, and it was cruel and it was wretched. It wasn't anyone being cruel. It was just a cruel situation. And I was also new to that publicness of it. Like, you put your hand up for public service, but it's like, oh, right. So I'm like, you're totally vulnerable and out there in the space, right? So it was a major setback in many ways. I completely doubted my ability to communicate how I thought I was, to communicate what I stand for. So misunderstood. And that really hurt. I suppose, to your point of that you always learn something, I learnt, well, first of all, if I could get through that, I can get through anything.
True.
So I've had a few other things thrown at me along the way, and there is nothing that I can't handle in this job now. I'm so clear. Hey, if I can handle you telling me that I'm against Anzacs, I can handle anything.
I remember one of my mentors teaching me that, when you step forward, someone will criticise you. And when you step back, someone will criticise you. Step to the left, they'll criticise. Step to the right, they'll criticise. Stand still, they'll criticise. So you just have to have your own integrity and do what's right by you.
That's right. I remember my auntie, I can remember when I had my first baby, and she said, Brooke, just remember that as a mother, whatever you do, it'll be wrong, and then everything's okay. It's kind of a similar thing, I think.
Yeah.
It's just but there will be opinions on how you do it, and you've just got to serve what you think works.
Absolutely. I had another, well, it was actually a lady I know very, very well taught me about how when you're listening around a table to make sure you hear everybody and that there are lots of rights. They're not necessarily you're wrong, I'm right. It's you're right, and you're right, and you're right. And then in somebody in your position has to take all the rights and how do I make the best right out of that? Yeah. And that's tough sometimes, I know. How do you define impact in the work that you do?
Well, I suppose the work is so diverse. I was chairing a governance and finance committee meeting. The impact there is how are we making sure that this is a viable, healthy city that is sustainable and continues. But I think in terms of where you're making an impact in this job, sometimes you really got to go and hunt for the gold because you're not often told. And so you really, where you have made an impact, you've got to value it and you've got to recognize it because a lot, and it's not only this role, it's everybody's role where you're contributing is quite often that the contribution is, that's just business as usual or things get noticed when it's not done more
Mm,
than when it is
mm,
done. So sometimes you just have to take that on and own it for yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that one more clearly. I'd like to be able to. Say it again. The
So
impact.
how do you define impact in the
Mm,
work that you do?
mm. I suppose on one element of it is setting goals that you want to achieve.
Mm,
And so it's pretty clear on whether you've achieved those or not. So in 2020, when I first ran, I made it clear that I intend to be here to fulfill on a CBD, a highly walkable, vibrant CBD. And I'm staying in this job as long as people have me until I have delivered that. I do think the most significant elements of it, there's the activation of the space and making the space, public realm, really workable. And we're doing some really good work on that. But there's things about, well, what is a CBD? We
mm,
need, and what does a city of this size deserve? We need a federal circuit court. The idea that people who are going through a divorce, and more divorce rates on the Gold Coast than anywhere, have to leave the Gold Coast to complete a divorce, and barristers are going up to Brisbane, it is really quite nonsensical that we don't have a Supreme Court here. So
mm,
these things are big things to achieve, but I don't think we have a mature CBD until we have them.
mm.
So I suppose with the impact, it's taking those milestones along the way, getting a milestone of a council resolution that said we will, in 2030, there will be a resolution recommendation coming back to council on having all these elements in the CBD and the staff accommodation move there. So it takes a lot to get that resolution. It's taken me 4 or 5 years to get to the stage where, okay, the city's ready and willing and to put in the effort and the resources to make sure that that can come in 2030, right? So
Yeah.
these things are long-term things, but yeah, that's good.
Inch by inch you get there.
And then other things, other impacts are just so subtle and soft, like a thank you from a resident in an email can make my week.
Oh,
It's just like,
yeah.
oh, yay, right?
Yeah.
So it's, you just got to take it where you can, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. And know that you are doing really good stuff. It's important that you do that because people don't see, people only see what they see and it's quite, shallow. They don't see the deep side of what you do. So hang in there, girl. Okay. Can you share an example when you saw your work create tangible impact, like really tangible impact, maybe for a person or the community or a system? So
Yeah.
we know about,
Well,
yeah.
this one, it's a little bit sad because of where we've shifted to now. However, when I first came into this role, I
Mm,
didn't have any background in social welfare. My work was finance, but I was really aware that the homelessness that we had on the streets was a real issue. So to make that distinction, the majority of homeless people you don't see. It's the,
Absolutely.
older mother who's on her daughter's couch or the like, but I'm talking about rough sleepers who were
Mm.
showing up in our public parks and our public streets. So homelessness is a state issue, but when it shows up in your space, there's something to do. So I was quite new in the job when I made a strong plea to my fellow councillors that we needed to have a formalised homelessness action plan,
Mm.
that we created a way that we engaged with the welfare providers and the state government, because before then we didn't have anything. So if one of our cleaners found someone in a public toilets with a syringe hanging out of there or whatever.
Mm.
There was no process, there was no policy, there was no how do we connect them. So I was able to get that vote over the line after people had tried before, and there were very good reasons why councillors said no.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, we cannot step into state government space
Mm.
because it's just effectively letting them off the hook. It was a very powerful argument, but I managed to shift that. We did get full-time people into that role, and we created the city's first homelessness action plan. Yeah.
Great. I'm very interested in, because we see in Southport there are a lot of homeless around. I
Mm.
actually have a friend who has a son that's on the streets, and I'm sort of trying very hard. How do we help that? Easier said than done.
It's really, really difficult. And most of the people who are staying on the streets, there is a lot of, even though housing is extremely difficult to get, there is a lot of support around. So we do have a lot of people who say no, though. And
Oh, I'm
it's
sure.
normally due to drug dependencies or mental health issues.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, don't get me started on the mental health stuff.
Mm.
We basically just closed mental institutions decades ago. Well, the country did, because we thought they were bad, but there was nothing else for them. So they've effectively gone to homelessness or jail
Mm.
in extraordinary quantities.
Mm.
But there's great work being done, and I must acknowledge our local state member, Rob Mulhook. He has not stopped on this, and the fact that a common ground facility building is going to be built in Southport is 100% he can own, having driven that. And that is a model that has achieved a lot in other cities. So it is for those people who wouldn't otherwise be able to hold down public housing
Yep.
for those reasons, and they've got a 24/7 concierge. And the stories that come out of it, how people transform their lives. I mean, I can imagine what my mental health would be like if I was sleeping on concrete for 4 nights in a row. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, just
Yeah.
giving people that space, their own privacy,
Yeah.
being able to start getting their heads into gear.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. What drives you to keep showing up, especially when the work does get that hard?
I don't know. I do find it peculiar sometimes. I don't know. I do speak to my husband about at some point we're just going to get into a big truck and drive through the middle of Australia. But it's, it's, I don't know. There is a calling of some sort. You do feel like you can make a difference, and you just got to put one foot in front of the other, no matter what it looks like, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's the small stuff. It's just those bits and pieces that kind of drive
Mm.
you to achieving your thing. So I think I'm an incredibly optimistic person. I think my husband's far more of a realist. Every election he's like, oh, yeah, well, you know what, we tried. It's like, honey, it's like, no, we're going to win. It's like, no, we did win. Oh, what, we won? Yeah. So, different approaches.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what kind of a legacy do you see yourself leaving?
It's a beautiful question. We played a little family card game the other night, and it said, what do you value in? And my husband said about me, empathy. And I was so touched because I think I put on a really strong kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I just love that's what my husband loves about me the most. This place has got to be a better place than when I when I leave it to when I start. And that is within a context as well.
Okay.
Because when my grandparents lived at Hayden Avenue, I tell you what, the life was pretty idyllic, but we had a much smaller population. We didn't have those demands on us. My father would say the first thing is, well, stop letting people come into the Gold Coast and stop increasing the population. Well, that's not a choice, right?
Yeah.
It's not a choice of local government. So what it would look like is, with the extraordinary change that we have, imposed is not a word I like, but effectively imposed on us, that we, these are the cards the city's being dealt with, that we do make it a place that we still love, that our grandparents could recognise, but that there is a future for our grandchildren, that they want to stay here, that there's a life for them to stay here. That's a pretty extraordinary opportunity to go to work and think, okay, well, this is kind of my gig every day.
So you're creating that anchor for people to love the Gold Coast and live here, and this is their
It doesn't
heartbeat.
take much to love the Gold Coast. We need to make sure that we maintain what is livable about it, whilst dealing with some pretty crazy pressures over the next couple of decades.
I think so. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's have a look. What advice would you give to someone who wants to make a difference but isn't sure where to start?
I'd start at home. What is your relationship like with your mother, your father? You got to get those things in integrity. Your family. You clean up all that stuff first. Then, did you do your tax return on time? Is your car clean? You start with the basics.
Yes.
And this is kind of a thing about the integrity. Like, you be, and then it's just self-expression, isn't it? I think making a difference is what every human wants to do. And it's just, what is your self-expression of that? For someone, it will be being a finance accountant. For someone else, it'll be creating the Wuthering Heights event. Where it really is whatever.
Yeah.
I can be quite, focused, and I don't want to call myself controlling, but have ideas on where things should go. And I'm really trying to kind of give guidance to my teenagers, but at the same time just go, you know what, like, it really does not matter what their field or their avenue is. Just let them go and find, where is it that you want to make a difference. But the other piece of advice I would give is to absolutely not underestimate just how profound a difference you can make, because every difference that's been made has always been made by one person, right? It starts with one person.
Absolutely.
It's the only way it can happen.
Yeah.
So,
to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah. You'll probably need a bit more walking to do to be the best version of myself. That's kind of might be a little cross on the integrity list at the moment. But we'll get there.
Yeah, but I believe every person is put on earth for a reason. And the key to life is finding that reason. And so many people don't. They just don't tap in enough. And I think that's having probably a lack of confidence, or being able to step out where you need to step out. But I know if anyone had said to me that I, after retiring, would start a business, I would have laughed you off the planet.
Well, we're so glad you did.
And
look, and I think you're a real testament to it's the unknown of it, right? You make a stake and you say, okay, I'm going to achieve this, and then look what comes out of it, and the people that you've touched and the lives that get transformed, and it kind of starts with an unknowing.
It does, yeah.
And I suppose that's the other thing for people, like, oh, how do I make this? It's just, well, no one knew when they started, right? No one knows.
No,
you just got to kind of go, and that energy and that interest is infectious. So people, I find, are very generous to help and to support. I'm learning about AI at the moment because I'm doing a director's course in it, because I recognise it's going to be, whether I like it or not, a really significant, most profound change to our organisation, like any other organisation. And my knowledge is here, and so I'm doing a director's course to get it up. But the way that I went about, going and learning about that, I've just asked I just call everyone who actually knows what they're talking about in the organisation. So they could give a 10-minute chat, 5 to 10-minute chat with me about this, and you learn. So people, I find, are very generous if you just ask.
Absolutely, 100%. So what inspires you right now and why?
What inspires me right now, besides watching my garden grow? I'm so excited about my new seedlings. What is it? I wish I could put some clarity on it. What inspires me right now? It's what we've been talking about the whole time. It is the experience of making a difference.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, that's it.
That's it. And that's awesome. And
That's it.
And sometimes you don't even know you've made a difference. I'm sure you've had people say something and you go, did I?
Oh,
Really?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that does occur. I think that is a self-expression for everyone. And I do feel very fortunate to be in this role, because it's one that allows it perhaps more naturally than others, certainly more so than some of my past roles, but you take advantage where you can of whatever work you're in to do that.
Absolutely. Build skill sets. So lastly, if you could be remembered for one message or action, what would it be?
There's a couple of things. First thing was integrity was her superpower.
Yeah.
And I suppose what I would like to be remembered for in this role, in this capacity, is the contribution I make to residents, to individual residents and their experiences, while still playing these big game stuff, right? Yeah. CBD stuff. But I think that, it relates back to that thing my husband said, that it is a true, real, heart-wrenching empathy that kind of drives me with a lot of things.
Yeah.
So if others, the fact that my husband recognises me for that's pretty cool, because he knows me better than anyone. But I suppose, yes, it would be that.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Brooke, for coming in today. It's been an absolute joy talking to you. And I have no doubt we're going to be communicating a lot more, because I think there's some exciting things we can do together.
Really lovely.
Yeah, really lovely. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.